Hi, I'm Chris from airwindows, and what I'm bringing you today is actually sort of a reboot. It is not the special thing I was working on that's kind of more of a mad science project and is a little bit extreme, nor is it another thing that I've got in the pipeline that should be good fun. Instead, we've got Dark again. But here's the thing, is this time Dark has extra control on it. And this control says DeRez. You might begin to guess what DeRez does, but you don't have to guess because I'm going to show you. So here's the deal. I can play music. Again, if I turn it on, we've got airwindows dark enabled, but we can now bit crush it. And here's the thing, is it's going to bit crush that audio linearly. Like it's much like the DeRez plugin in that it is sort of putting an analog number of bits, like you can go to 2.5 bits or whatever, dial it in by ear. And part of this is so that you can hear it. If you wanted to do what it says on the tin, you go to 0. And 0 gives you 16 or 24-bit as the plugin specifies. That also means, since it's using that as a baseline, you can do the CD, get it to like 1 bit or 0 bits, then switch to HD, and that gives you 8, which is kind of like this. And it's gone. But here's what HD sounds like. This is now 8-bit. It gives you a bit of a picture of how the dark algorithm works too. Here it's off. And you can hear the symbols have a brightness to them. But if I turn this on, you wouldn't necessarily guess that that was 8-bit. But the symbol stuff is darker than it was. It's off again. On again. Yeah, you can take a moment and we'll do just raw drums for a second so that we can hear what this is really doing. So here we have nothing in there. And then if we turn this on, we'll have 8-bit. Turn it back off, 24. I had hats in here at some point. There we go. So those are sort of full brightness hats. But if we turn it on to the 8-bit level, we can hear some of that 8-bitness, but it's also doing a kind of darkening too. And then we can bit crush like crazy. So that's another kind of sound that you can make using this, is a sort of wacky, grindy sort of thing. In fact, let's throw some other weirdness on here as well. Now, this is getting more into the sound effects style of things, but it's an interesting kind of bit crush because it's a bit crush that's using the dark algorithm. So all of the quantization that it's doing is to the effect of trying to smooth the sound out. we'll do that on this bass because what we can do is less aggressive bit crushing. Just a little bit. Remember, this is a sort of an analog bit depth where you can do 5.5 bits or whatever sounds right. So I'm just introducing enough of this hissiness to it. And it sounds like it has an interesting quality. And this should give you a pretty decent sort of old school sampler kind of vibe here. It's going to sound a little bit more like old hardware than just straight up bit crushing, because it's doing something different with the quantization than normal. It's darkening stuff. And there's probably like 12, 14 maybe. Full on 16. Again, this is still a 16-bit quantization. Bring up that hissy quality in there. Or we can play with this snare sample. Oh, the snare sample went away. Let's put it back. So what we've got here is a simple snare sample. And if we were going to do weird things to it in the mix, we might do something like this. We'll set it to the 16-bit so that we can have more control over things. By the way, the 24-bit will also, or should it? Well, it will if you turn it on. Let's see, try that. We'll also go to cutting things off completely, but it's just at a different level. Again, it's different. So what we've got now is our snare here, and then we can sort of darken and grunge it a little bit if we were looking for that bit crush kind of thing. And yeah, I know some of you say terrible, terrible things to me because you hate all these modern things like bit crushing and sample rate crushing and all of that. And you think I've lost my damn mind, but I have hip-hop user friends as well and stuff, and so people can do things like this. That snare might work for some people. That might be what some people are looking for. If not, you don't have to use it. But it'll give you an idea of what's at the bottom level of dark as it's doing its thing. It does that sort of little gatey thing because it's trying to smooth stuff out to silence. And you have another thing in store that does even stranger things that the haters are going to have even more fun with. But for now, this is relatively well behaved. And you can dirty it up a little bit like this, or now the interesting thing about that is the way that the soundstage does not collapse when it goes to the super low bit quality. And that's dark. That is what the dark plugin does. Like back, 2 weeks ago when it came out and it had only a 16-bit and 24, and it was like, oh, and listen to this and see what you think about it. It went over pretty well for people. But it wasn't so easy to do this with it, where you can really switch back and forth between the raw sound and a deeply, deeply bit crushed version of it, just in the basic plugin. And that'll give you a sense of what the base sound of the thing is. And you can kind of hear the soundstage and the tonality, the style of the thing. Like on that guitar and stuff. This is very, very low bit, but it's still got some of the same qualities as the raw thing because it's doing that algorithm that's built into this plugin. And this is basically like 1 bit, maybe 2, super, super low bit. But when you kick it in, you get a very similar tonality just with this ugly noise in there. Changing the background noise because it has to. There's nothing else it can do. I have like 1 bit. But the tone of the mix isn't changing all that much. Kind of feels a little bit like I'm just turning noise on and off. But no, this is a total bit crush. Yeah. Back to our 16-bit. Back to our 24-bit. And there you have it. So this is dark again. This is the same plugin from 2 weeks ago. The reason I'm doing it like this is because in these situations, oh here, let me take a second and we can get on with this and I'll come back. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I feel I can update stuff in place if I update it in such a way where any new controls that are added, their default values give you exactly what it was before, which is what this is doing. There's the DeRez control that's showing up in the bottom, and its default is 0, and 0 is exactly the same behavior that you had before. So I'm going to leave the old download available under like Dark Original or something in case there's some unforeseen bug or people need to go back. But essentially the way this works is you should be able to drop this in, and anything that you had with this in the mix, as long as it's able to load up the new control and assign it to its default value, since you haven't saved any settings for it, it should be effectively no change on anybody who has been using this and saving it with settings. But now you have DeRez, so now you have the ability to both hear it better, do crazy modern hip-hop kind of things with it where you're crushing everything and doing weird things to the audio, and just basically do whatever you want. I mean, this is called dark, but it's not really an EQ. Here, I don't need these anymore. This is called dark, but it's not really an EQ because it's a word length reducer. This is doing quantization and it's spitting out low res. That's all it's doing. That's all the change that's happening. So the tonal characteristics that you get off of it are because it's doing quantization in a way that instead of trying to do a averaged out noise floor or making noise or something like that, or doing anything along those lines, it's just working out what is going to create the smoothest, most rolled off resulting sound from whichever direction it quantizes, and then it's choosing that. It's basically going like, okay, what do I have to do to make the end result be the smoothest and least high frequencies. And that's how that works. So yeah, as far as other news of things, I am kind of backing off the idea of trying to do a fancy sessions of people doing live streams and stuff, because when I did the live stream at 3 or 9 o'clock European time, nobody came. And when they did, this asked me, and it's like, I don't carry enough weight for playing music online to be doing that. If anybody else does it, I'd love to participate. Also, I haven't been doing music at the moment because on the back of that, I was kind of rebooting and rebuilding my stuff. Like rebuilding the way that my reverbs work. You know how MV is based on the mini verb? Now I'm running 3 of them in series. So there will be reverbs. And I'm running the reverb into the compressor that I used to use for this. So there will be reverbs. And all kinds of ways of having fun. But I'm kind of on the back burner there while I just rebuild all of my stuff. And I am not on the back burner with plugins. So next week you will be seeing the one that I was going to be talking about this week, because that one benefited even more from the DeRez control being added to it. Yes, it's another thing. It's kind of like this, but not really. And it's a much crazier, more dangerous experiment. This one just smooths. Next one does something even weirder. And I have no idea what to make of it at this stage, but it'll be up to you. And the DeRez will let you hear what is happening, for better or for worse. Also, if you have ever heard of a plugin called Bright Ambience, you will. But that said, that's enough for me for now. So I will see you. I'm looking around for, I'm not sure whether you can see what I've written down back there. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Another thing that I was doing while kind of rebooting my stuff was I decided that some of my things were because I was not doing tempo well enough and it wasn't optimal. So I tried to figure out the secrets behind how tempo works. Why, for instance, if you were at like a BPM of 140, it's exhausting and really challenging, but then if you go to, say, 150, it's relaxed again. How come? What's going on there? Turns out there is a bizarre equation. It's not really a bizarre equation. It's more like a sort of logarithmic curve that wraps around like a barber. Anyways, I've been doing some work on analyzing tempo, and I found some interesting stuff. I'll talk about that on Monday on my live stream, which is going to be at 11 o'clock as before. On that note, I hope you like the new release of Dark. If you need the old one, you can get it from the Dark page. I'll have it sort of renamed so that you could re-download it if you don't like having the new control. The new control should work just fine for everybody. And I hope you enjoy it. It now has the bit crush thing going on, and that also means that you can hear what it's doing a lot better, and there is a convenient way to get to roughly 8-bit, if that suits your fancy. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.